Hello, this is Captain Aquarius, coming to you doing business again as Dan First on June the 8th of 2017 at 2:09 p.m. in the afternoon from Cork, Ireland, with a chart for tomorrow, which is cast for 3:09 p.m. in Paris, France. Why such precision about the time of day? Because right now, as I make this recording for you, it is exactly one day until the full moon comes to its point of exactness. And this is also the day when the British are voting in a parliamentary election that will determine whether the current Tory Prime Minister, Theresa May, is going to be able to increase her very slight majority of only 17 seats in Parliament and thereby gain greater freedom of action in enacting her program and controlling the Parliament. The obstacle to this is a man named Jeremy Corbyn, the Labour Party leader, who is running unexpectedly strong against her. It is likely that what is going to happen here, and we will know the results exactly tomorrow, is going to be so indecisive that the British may have what they call a hung parliament. That is, a parliament in which neither party, no party in the parliament, has such a decisive majority that it is able to rule by itself without having to form deals and coalescences with other parties. Is this appropriate to the period of time that we are in? Absolutely so, as you know from the preceding videos that we have had in this series. We are going to look again at the crucial combination which is strongly in effect now, which continues in effect until early July, and which is likewise appropriate to the French election that took place a few weeks ago and will be followed a few days from now by the parliamentary election of June the 11th. This will determine whether the new president, Emmanuel Macron, is going to have enough deputies in the French parliament to be able to exercise his authority and to enact his program there. The specific meaning of the combination that we have looked at before, and we will look at again now, is in the relationship here of the planet Saturn, whom you see down here in the third house at the bottom of the chart. 120 degrees away from his position is the North Moon's node in the sign of Leo in the 11th house, and 120 degrees away from both of those is the planet Uranus, who is here in the 7th house of the chart. Crucially, really the house of marriage and love relationship, and in fact of partnerships in general, as the 11th house, where the moon's node is located, is the house of friendship, cooperation, social activity, community, and the third house, where Saturn is located, is the house of communications, of brothers and sisters. And so very likely what is favored in this chart is going to be accommodations among people who are relating to each other as equals, who are in effect compelled to strike deals with other people for the sake of being able to operate at all. This is not in any sense a time in which individual autocratic leaders are going to be able to force their programs on anyone else. It is instead a time which, because of this marvelous triangular formation in the chart, this formation which is called a Grand Trine, compels acquiescence. It is not so much a dynamic or forceful aspect as it is an aspect of stability and of coming into order and harmony and accommodation. Therefore, the result which may as well predict it here. The British election is not going to be decisive. It is not going to give Theresa May the larger majority that she seeks. That's why she has made the gamble of holding this election now when she has been in office for less than 1 year. Rather, what is going to happen here is that Jeremy Corbyn and his Labour Party are going to have a strong showing and thereby are going to compel a government in which whoever forms the majority is going to be able to operate only in a spirit of cooperation with the others. So it is time to talk about the third player in this arrangement. We have talked a month ago at the video for the full moon of a month ago about the planet Saturn and partly his relationship with his son, the planet Chiron, the wounded healer. And we talked 2 weeks ago at the black moon in the sign of Gemini about the moon's nodes and what they signify. Now it is time to concentrate more on Uranus, the revolutionary, the bringer of change, the trickster, the magician, the producer of surprising magical effects. So we talk a little bit more about this planet, whom you see right here in an artist's rendering, which shows, as you can notice here, that like Saturn, Uranus is a planet which has rings around him. This new planet was discovered in 1785 by William Herschel, the British astronomer, and this is why the planet symbol that is most often used now for this new planet looks like the letter H, with a little ball hanging from the crosspiece here. It was not by any means guaranteed or certain that this planet was going to be given the name that it has today, generally called Uranus or Uranus or even Uranus. This planet was the first one to be discovered in modern times, the first one to be perceived as being in our solar system, in addition to the 7 classical planets which can be seen with the naked eye. And we can imagine what it must have been like in 1785 when this planet was discovered. This had never happened before. Nobody knew, how do we name a planet? And there were some people at that time who were inclined to name the planet Prometheus, for the famous Titan who had pulled the spectacular revolutionary act of stealing fire from Mount Olympus and thereby became a symbol for revolutionaries everywhere. This was, after all, the decade when 2 years before Uranus was discovered, or before this new planet was going to be named, the British finally had to come to accommodation and cede at the Treaty of Ghent in 1783 the independence of their former North American colonies, who were now the United States of America. 1785 was the year of the notorious affair of the Queen's Diamonds, in which Marie Antoinette became a target of tremendous scandal and criticism over a scam which was pulled against her by a young woman named Jeanne de la Motte Valois, who is represented here by Hilary Swank in the movie about this notorious event. And this increased dissatisfaction with the French monarchy, and only a few years after this, as you know, the Paris mob stormed the terrible prison of the Bastille and launched the French Revolution. So, it was clear that the planet that was discovered at this time might indeed somehow represent the revolutionary fervor of the time. And so it is useful to look a little bit about Prometheus and his mythology. The woodcut that you see here, this is from Germany in the 16th century, shows him holding in his hand a firebrand which interestingly enough, you see, is not the way that he actually got the fire down from Mount Olympus. One of the legends about this says that he brought fire down by hiding live coals inside a fennel stalk. That way he was able to escape from Mount Olympus without the fire and the smoke being seen, because if Zeus Jupiter had seen this, he certainly would have stopped Prometheus from taking the fire. But significantly enough, the shape of the firebrand that you see here looks very significantly like the shape of the thunderbolt, the lightning bolt in the hand of Jupiter. You see the fire at both ends with the area in the middle by which one can grasp it. So the implication here was very clear. Prometheus was somehow stealing the secret of Zeus's own power, the mastery of fire, which human beings did not have until this time. The point of Prometheus's action was to get human beings out of the dark by giving them the ability to make fire themselves. Before this, the only way that they could get fire would be if a lightning storm occurred, the lightning ignited some kind of plant matter in the area, and they could go and get and light something from that and get fire that way. Otherwise, they did not know how to make fire. And so, this was a crucially important symbolic event in the evolution of human beings. And it is part of an evolutionary process that we see in the ancient history of the Olympian gods and of the Titans who preceded them. The Titans were, as their name implies, a race of giants who dominated heaven and earth prior to their overthrow by the Olympian gods, and the battle between the giants and the Olympian gods and their other allies is a famous mythic theme which is depicted constantly in Greek art, as it is on the side of the sarcophagus that we see here, where we notice that the Titans, some of them in human form, another one having his legs terminating in the form of a serpent, have no weapons more potent than stones that they can throw, whereas the goddess Leto, in the center of this image, has firebrands. And so if fire is now the superior technology with which the new Olympian gods are able to defeat their adversaries, then imagine what it would be to possess the ultimate fire technology of the lightning bolt in the hand of Zeus. The theft that Prometheus committed was punished famously when Zeus chained him to a rock and sent an eagle to gnaw at his liver every day. And then at night, the wound would heal, and again the eagle would come back the next day. And Prometheus endured this torment until Hercules, who is a significant figure in the story, came finally to liberate him. Hercules, in fact, the son of Hera, the consort of Zeus, and we will hear more about him a little bit later. And so, you can imagine the political ramifications of this situation, in which the astronomer has to consider whether the king who is supporting the university that has my telescope where I do my research is going to be happy if the new planet is named for a revolutionary. Not likely. And so therefore, the name that was chosen for this planet was Uranus, which is the figure of the Titan who is associated especially with astronomy. You see in this ancient Greek mosaic that Uranus is standing here with Gaia, the earth, and their union of sky and earth was said to have engendered all of the other Olympian gods. And so, and the Titans who preceded them for that matter. And so you see next to Uranus is a is a constellation belt with the signs of the zodiac itself. Another image by Tycho Brahe, the Danish astronomer, shows Uranus here in his position, you see, as the geometer of the sky, the geometer of the heavens. And so this is meaningful, needless to say, because the discovery of the new planet, like Benjamin Franklin's discovery of the principle of electricity in lightning several decades before this, shows that now human beings have a new. And so what we notice here also, you see, the muse Urania, who was the muse of astronomy among the ancient Greeks and Romans, has here the sphere representing the cosmos, and the pencil or stylus representing the way that we sketch and we draw and we define. And so Uranus, as it turns out, was in fact an extremely insecure tyrant, like his son Saturn, who was the one who would overthrow him. It happened, in fact, and this is why you don't see very many images of Uranus depicted in ancient sculpture and art, because of the gruesome outcome of his story. His son Saturn, as shown here in this painting by Giorgio Vasari, in fact castrated his father with a sickle, threw the genitals into the sea, whereupon the goddess of the sea, Thalassa, was impregnated by the seed of Uranus, which is why the goddess Venus, as shown here in this painting by Botticelli, was born from the sea. So this covers a lot of the mythology about Uranus. He has been assigned as the ruler of the sign of Aquarius, which had before that been ruled by Saturn as the ruler of both Aquarius and Capricorn. And therefore, Uranus is associated with the theme of revolution, the theme of novelty, the theme of change, the clearing away of hierarchy, the establishment of relationships of synarchy, that is, equals relating in conditions of shared power, which is what we are experiencing in the world right now, and which is why this month of June 2017 is so important, showing us why the conventional leader-follower relationships in politics are becoming increasingly obsolete. There is more about all of this in my book, Surfing Aquarius, which has a lot of information about the planet Uranus and about the sign of Aquarius itself, now that we have arrived at the point where the age of Pisces, which has lasted from before the time of Jesus until now, is being replaced by the age of Aquarius, was all that that implies. The evolution of relationships of synarchy rather than hierarchy, the importance of swarm intelligence, in which decisions are made collectively by teams and communities, the transition from the late Piscean concealment and secrecy to the new transparency that must happen now. And this is why so many things, whistleblowers, WikiLeaks, so many other things, are making it impossible for the Archon controllers to contain their secrets. We also see ultimately a switch from the old paradigm of scarcity to the new paradigm of abundance. This is an immensely important period of time in which it is incumbent on us to play the love end of the energy battery. We can play the end of fear, and we have been there long enough. It is time now to play the pole of love at the Battery, to come out of isolation and fear and to come into the full possession of our love and our community.